Avengers Age of Ultron, we're finally going to talk about. Sorry for the delay on this, it's taken a while to find time to do it. And I almost wasn't going to do it, but I've been looking at the response, not from critics, the critics more or less share my opinion, but a lot of the online reviewers, like Jeremy John, Schmoes, Beyond the Trail, like a lot of them I disagree with. So, I'm going to review this movie, and first off, let me just quickly sum up how I thought the first one. I thought it was fun. It was great they managed to make it work as well as it did and balance all the characters. And they were balancing all these characters, and it was fun. And I was looking forward to the sequel because I thought, okay, now that we have the origin story out of the way, because like the first 30 minutes of the first film was just them assembling the Avengers, I thought we can get right to it and we can deliver something really good. And then I got really skeptical because I thought it's going to be a lot of mass CGI action as opposed to Mad Max, which I haven't seen yet, but it looks amazing. Where there's a lot of practical effects. And also, Joss Whedon was giving a lot of interviews. Well, in the interviews he was getting, he kept talking about how he's not happy with the way the film turned out, that he kept getting a lot of notes from Marvel. And that lowered my enthusiasm. So going into the film, it honestly started out pretty good. I love how it just sort of throws you into the middle of the action. I'm like, yeah, I'm glad we're not taking like 30 minutes to set everything up. But it's kind of like Man of Steel, where when I got that big, loud, dumb opening, I thought the film would slow down, and it wouldn't. And I'm just real quick going to summarize the story in case you don't know. So, Avengers take down Hydra, which we learned in Winter Soldier were still around, and they recover Loki's scepter, which Tony decides to use to create Ultron, which is designed to keep peace, but unfortunately he goes crazy and tries to kill everyone. Now the Avengers have to stop him. And he's joined by these two twins who were experimented on with Loki's staff by Hydra, who are now working for Ultron, who are Quicksilver, who we already met in Days of Future Past, although a completely different actor, and Scarlet Witch, who has like these mind powers. And what threw me off about the story was that it was, and this is ultimately what my biggest problem with the film, is that there was a little too much. Like, so much happens in this film. Like, there are a lot of characters that are introduced, big action set pieces. We're constantly jumping into locations. There are these big moments happening all the time, and the film, I don't think we ever get enough time to let this sink in, because we're just constantly moving from one thing to the next, and by not letting everything slow down, as a result of just giving us so many big moments and not enough time to take each one in, it just comes across really loud, noisy, and a lot of it just winds up forgetting anything. And I wish the film had slowed down more, let the characters breathe, and gave us time to take some of these moments in. Like Ultron being created, Vision, all this stuff. It never really sunk in the way it should. And when the film did slow down, it was really good. There was the party scene in the trailer I thought was really good, and it also nicely sets up something that happens later on in the film. Then there's this one bit with Hawkeye where we learn something about Hawkeye and we're slowing down. We're learning. It's like, wow, this is really good. Like, all the character moments were really good. But unfortunately, those scenes are there's only like one, two, or three, and they're very brief lulls in a lot of action. And some people have already described that this is a giant retread of the first, not retread, but a giant action scene. It's true. Like, it feels like there's more action than story, and I love action, but I feel like you need to give it in small doses or else it'll get boring. And because action in Marvel movies is fun, but it's only fun up until a certain point. Like if it goes on too long, it's gonna be boring. Cause like for example, there's a scene where they're in Africa and they're fighting Ultron, and then after 5 minutes of fighting Ultron and the twins, it goes into the Hulk Iron Man fight from the trailer, and I really didn't feel anything. I think a lot of that is just because it was part of a giant. I was already worn out from the action scene, so the previous action bit. So when we went to this, I was like, all right. And the climax of this film felt very similar to the first one, except none of the fun, cool moments from the first one, and it just sort of felt like a lame retread. And considering this is like the umpteenth action scene in the film, I was kind of worn out. And unfortunately, a lot of the film is more focused on this fight with Ultron, when I thought the really interesting stuff was the internal stuff. I like seeing the Avengers battle their internal selves. Like, there's one scene during the fight in Wakanda when the Avengers have to confront a side of themselves, and if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And I thought that was really good, but they didn't. I wish they had gone far with that. So, new characters. Ultron I liked. I thought James Spader did a really good job voicing him. I wish they had fleshed him out a bit more. I mean, this movie's sort of like Spider-Man 3, and there's a lot going on, and as a result of cramming so much in, like, nothing gets developed as much as it should, and you're going to see this with the characters. So, again, I liked Ultron, but I don't feel like the film did enough with him, particularly his motivation, where he just suddenly turns evil. Whereas, if you watch the cartoon, or Smite Series, they set up Ultron way more advanced, so by the time he goes evil, you've already known him for a while, and you saw the gradual decay. There's the twins, who are really underdeveloped. And when I say really underdeveloped, I mean, like, I don't really know anything about them. I know what their powers are, but I don't know anything about their personality outside of a quick sentence Mariah Hill tells the Avengers. Like, one's fast and one has mind hex powers or something. And again, I feel like this is one of those, there was so much going on in the film that I don't feel like I ever really got time to get to know them. I mean, I appreciate them as a threat to the Avengers. I appreciate them as someone Ultron can talk to, but I don't feel like they ever got the development that they should have. Compare this to the Quicksilver in Days of Future Past, where that guy has a personality. We spent a couple minutes getting to know him, and I can tell you more about the Quicksilver in Days of Future Past than the one in Avengers. Like, just describing personality, not describing who they are, what they do. Quicksilver in Days of Future Past he's a prankster, he's energetic, he loves abusing his powers. The one in Avengers is just fast, and it makes it really hard to care about him, especially there's this one scene where they really seem to want you to care about Quicksilver, and I didn't feel anything for him, because, again, we had just met him, and the film really didn't do a good job setting him up. Vision, I thought, was handled pretty well. I mean, I was a little skeptical of Vision. Here's what I thought. I thought Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were going to be handled fine, and Vision was just going to be sort of thrown in there. He wasn't going to be developed, but Vision, I thought, was handled really well. I thought they did a good job introducing him and establishing his character, again, by going back to something that happened earlier in the film. There's this thing that Vision does that calls back to an earlier scene in the film. I thought that was a great way to just get his character through. And he looked great. I mean, I was a little skeptical about how this really comic booky thing was going to translate over to live action. And it looks great. I mean, Paul Bettany looks amazing. And he's just so cool. And the reason why Vision works, even though Vision doesn't show up until pretty late in the film, is that Vision is an extension of a character we already know. So it wasn't that we're introducing a new character. But yeah, I mean, so kudos to Marvel for taking such a strange and bizarre character and making it work. Hulk is back in this film, and I enjoy him, although I think he works better as an ensemble than standalone movies. Except there's one thing that Hulk does in this movie, a big thing that happens with Hulk this movie, which I won't give away if you haven't seen the movie, but it felt very rushed. And I wish the film had taken more time to set this up, and it's happened in the comics. It happens at one point in the Avengers Earth My Ideas Heroes cartoon, and there, I thought that thing that happens was set up nicely. Well, I haven't read the comic where it happens, but in the cartoon, when this one thing happens, it was like there was an entire episode revolving around it. So when it happened, you're like, oh, that makes sense. Whereas here, it didn't really feel like it. And I wish they had trimmed down some of the action to flesh this out. There's also a plotline with Thor, which clearly feels shoehorned in there by Marvel, and through research I found out it was, and I wish it had trimmed it down, just one less thing going on, and one less thing going on, and would give more time for the other stuff. And so the film as a whole was alright. I don't think it was anything special. Again, I thought it was just trying to do... There was way too much in here. It was a little too big, a little too dumb, and a little too loud. I really didn't slow down and explore the characters as much. And I don't blame Whedon for this. I feel like Whedon was trying to make a really good movie. The moments that he was particularly adamant about putting in the film, and I'll put a link to an interview where... Not an interview, but an article that describes what I'm talking about. But the stuff that we didn't seem to really fight to keep in the film was the stuff that I really loved, and I wish the film had done more of that. Because as it is, there's a lot of stuff in this film. This film feels like a checklist to some extent. Like, Marvel gave him a giant sheet of all this stuff that he needed to put in to set up all these Phase 3 movies. And Whedon was so caught up in trying to get everything in there that he wasn't able to make the movie he wanted to make, which, if you've read any of the interviews, he's clearly not happy. I mean, the fact that he's not coming back for Avengers 3 and 4, or Infinity War Parts 1 and 2, depending on what you're going to call it, it clearly shows that he isn't happy with the way the film turned out, and I wish him the best. So, to sum up real quick, Avengers 2, alright, but forgettable. Like, I barely remembered it. It didn't really leave any sort of impact on me, just sort of I mean, there were moments... It was fun up until I realized the entire movie was just nothing but mostly action, and the climax was remarkably similar to the first. But, I mean, But again, I've never been the hugest fan of Marvel. Well, the movies at least. The comics and stuff I enjoy. Particularly, I'm reading the Civil War comic right now, and it's really good, but... Anyway, back to the movie. If you're a fan of the franchise, you've already seen it, but if you really enjoy Marvel movies, you go see this one. You'll probably have a good time with it. If you're not a fan of Marvel, like my brother is, like, this film won't do anything to change your mind. Yeah, it didn't change his mind. But, so yeah, I mean, it's not as good as the first Avengers. The first one had a much simpler story. It was a lot more straightforward. The action was a lot more fun, and it lended itself a lot better to just letting the characters breathe. And while I don't think much of the first Avengers, I enjoy it a lot more than the first one, and even Days of Future Past, which I wasn't too big a fan of, feels like a masterpiece when you compare it to you just look at how Quicksilver was used, how restrained the action was, whereas this is sort of okay. And it's kind of a bummer when you consider how many great superhero sequels we have, like Dark Knight, Spider-Man 2, and I wanted this to be one of those, but unfortunately it wasn't. Now that I'm done talking about Age of Ultron, I'm kind of beating around a dead bush. I'm just going to talk about the trailers really quick. Which, first off, I didn't see this at an AMC. I saw this at a Bowtie Cinemas theater. So, I only got like 10 minutes of trailers as opposed to AMC, where I would have gotten like a half an hour worth of trailers. I had to go to the bathroom during one point, so I might have missed a trailer, but because I got there really late. But anyway, I got a comedy which I don't remember the name of. Then there was a dramatic film starring Jake Gyllenhaal, which I don't really remember much of. I got the Ant-Man trailer, which I've already talked about it in depth, so just go watch that trailer if you want my thoughts on the Ant-Man trailer. And finally, I got the Jurassic World trailer, which, like, it had me at first. Like, I mean, there were a couple things in the original trailer that I kind of liked, like the park being open, Chris Pratt, but it just looks really big, dumb, and loud, and there are a couple moments in this trailer that reminded me a lot of stuff from the original Jurassic Park. You had this one bit that reminded me of the Clever Girl bit. There was a bit where these kids are in a ball, and it just reminded me of the T-Rex scene from the first Jurassic Park. So yeah, I'm losing it. I didn't think the film was going to be particularly good. I thought it would be decent at best, but by this point, I was never the biggest fan of it. Even when the trailers were shown, in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, this probably won't be good. But the marketing's making it look nice, and now it's like, it doesn't even look nice, so... But I'll talk more about Jurassic World in a week or two when I do my thoughts going into it. So, Avengers Age of Ultron. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Comment below. Let me know how you feel about it. Like, dislike, subscribe, and this is JStar60, and I'll see you guys later. Until next time, take care.